This is Chapter 7, Chapter 3, Part 7. I'm sorry, Chapter 3, Part 7. Continuing on with Constructor. A constructor, basically, the first, the class that you have made, classes can have special methods called constructor. Constructor are used to perform operation at one time an object is created. Constructor typically initialize the instance of the field and performs other object initialization tasks. Make sure you know these 3 bullets, because if you want to initialize a particular field to a value you start out with, then you have to use a constructor. Okay, that's just the basic definition of this. Let's take a look at the second slide for the same. So, the constructor have a few properties that set apart from the normal method. Constructors have the same name as the class. So, watch. I'm going to go over these 2 demos here. Constructor have no return type, not even a void. Constructor may not return any value. Constructor are typically public. Let's take a look at constructor demo and room constructor here. Okay. Okay, so here's what I'm going to look at. The first one is the constructor demo. The constructor demo is on the left. Alright? So this is the one that has the main function. It's calling the rectangle box and it's passing across the length and the width. Length of 5 and the width is 15. And it's going to output the box, which is this object. It's going to get the length, return the length. It's going to get the width by using the box from the rectangle class to return what's the width, and I'm telling what the area. Here, this is what I want to point out, is in this particular class that you see that there are some constructors here that we were looking at here. Look at here. This is what we need to look at here. Hang on, hold on. So this is what I'm talking about, is the constructor. I want to do this in a way that we can actually see a lot of stuff that I have, so we can actually see on the right hand side and all that stuff. I just want, alright, so the first thing, if a constructor is, no, we're one slide, alright, it's this one right here, this slide. So I want to pull up the rectangle class and show the constructor with you, with what I just talked to you about. Alright, the constructor have the same name as the class. So here's the constructor. This is the constructor right here. Public rectangle. Are you watching? This is very important. This is the constructor. This method is a constructor. I'm setting this to the field. So the rectangle, it doesn't have a void or anything between the public and the rectangle. That's the first thing. It's the same name as the class and the same name as the name of the file. Rectangle, the constructor, rectangle, the name of the class, rectangle, the name of the file. 3 things have to be the same thing. 3 things. So I'm going to just walk you down here. Constructor do not have return type, not even a void. Look, public rectangle. Constructor may not return a value. Look, you're not returning anything. You're initializing. You're setting things equal to. Alright? Constructor are typically public. Look, the word public, the name of the constructor. So these are the 4 points that I would like for you. Make sure when you write constructor, these 4 points you gotta have in this thing. Okay? Now there's what's called a default constructor. This is very important. So if a constructor is not defined, Java provides a default constructor. It sets all the classes numeric field to 0. That's the first thing. Any value that you have is going to set to 0. It sets all the class boolean to false. Okay. It sets all the class reference variable, the default constructor, set them to a special value as null with it. So if you're, it's something that, these are the 3 default with this thing. So you need to know these 3 for the test. Okay. The default constructor is a constructor with no parameter. I know that. Default constructor are used to initialize the object in the default configuration with this thing. Okay. So Let me take a look at the next one is the constructor of the UML. Here it is. If you look at the UML, public, rectangle. And these are the two arguments or parameters being passed in there. Okay, notice there's no return type. They're just only initialized with this, the name of the class, and the name of the is the same as name as your class. Okay, the string class is the next one I need to talk to you about. Things that you learn in C++, 1436. If you had me, you probably had the same thing. One of the string class constructor accepts a string literal as an argument. So the string literal is used as to initialize the string object. For instance, you can actually create a string calling Michael Long that assigns it to an object called name. Now, in C++, we had to use the #include string library file. Here, you do not. Java does not have you bring in a preprocessor for this thing. Anything, so there's no import statement for this thing up to this point. So so in here, if you look at, it's one of the things. Here's the string class constructor. This creates a new reference variable name that points to the string object that represents the name Michael Long, because they are used so often. String can be created as shorthand, so you can do this. But this right here is equivalent to that statement right here as well. Okay, both of these are the same thing. Take a look at your bank account right here. This is another file that's in your set of code that I'm going to talk to you about right now, which is the bank account. And this is the UML for that. Look at the name of your bank, public. I'm looking at the first method, as I'm calling this constructor, bank account. Public bank account, okay? Same name as your account, bank account up here, which is the same name as your class, which tells me this is a constructor, which tells me that they are going to most likely initialize something in here. Okay? Every one of these things are either setters or getters. So if I had to guess, if you deposit, what do you think that is? You're writing to. That makes it a setters, and it's a mutator. If you are withdrawing, you're also what? Doing changes. It's also a setters, and it's a mutator. You're adding interest. What is that? You're doing some math. You're adding some interest, making changes to setters and mutators. You want to read to get the balance, getters. You want to read to get the interest, it is an interest. Now note, setters and getters all have void, whereas getters will return you as the double. You see that? So keeping things in perspective with it as well. Okay, so I'm not going to go over this code with you. Classes, variables, and scope with this thing. The list below shows the scope of the variables depending on where it's declared. Inside a method, okay, so if it's inside a method, visible can only within the method call a local variable. In a method parameter, okay, you put this in a method parameter, call the parameter variable, same as a local variable, visible within that method. Inside a class, but not in a method. So these are the different scopes and what you can only be viewed, scopes with it. Visible to all methods in the class, call an instance field with it. There's a test question I want you to know is the instance field for this thing. There's the next slide is I'm going to talk about shadowing. Shadowing is a parameter variable. Is in effect a local variable with this thing. So with a method, variable names must be unique. Must be unique. A method that must have a local variable with the same name as its instant field. Okay, this is called shadowing. So in a way that you can actually do what? You can actually a method that has the local variable with the same name as its instant field. Wow, that could cause a lot of problems with this. So the local variable will hide the value of the instance field. Shadowing is discouraged, and local variable names should not be the same name as the field. So, for example, going back to, this is what I'm talking about, is this. So what if you took len, L-E-N, len, and you put it length? The same name as this field right here. That's shadowing. It's going to hide, instead of W, you use the word width. It's going to assign to the field called width up here. So shadowing, what does that mean? The local variable will hide the value of the instance field. Yeah. So it's, you know, we don't do this. This is what I would consider as bad practice, and with it. So be careful. I mean, it's just out there, but you don't really have a chance. I would stay away from it. This next slide is a test question slide. A package and import statement. Like I said, you need to know the word import for the test question to import in some library files from outside coming in with it. So import is a reserved word that you need to know with it as well. So it brings in groups of related classes, the classes which are API are organized into packages with it as well. So for example, scanner class requires you to use the word import.java.util.scanner. Okay, so make sure you know that. Key things, packages, and import. You can import in a lot of these library files that's from up here with it. So there are a lot more than what's listed here. Okay. Object-oriented design. Find classes and their responsibility. Finding the class. Write. Get the written description of the problem domain. Identify all your nouns and its potential class. Find list includes only class relevant to the problem. Identify the responsibility. Both of these bullets are very important. I think I can't stress enough. If I ask you something, what is a class and what is its responsibility? You need to tell me it's finding this class and its responsibility. These things with it. Okay. Identifying the responsibility, things that the class is responsible for knowing. This is the first two things I ask you to do. You gotta know these two statements for your test. It is out there. I will have a test question on these two bullets right here. The last one is identify responsibility. Classes are responsible for knowing and it's doing. Again, knowing and doing. Identifying the responsibility with it, including the class relevant to the problem. That is it. That concludes the series of the Chapter 3 exams. Please read the book. These lecture notes by no means do not replace reading the books with it. They're just cliff notes, highlights of what needs to be focused on. You are still responsible for the rest of the Chapter 3. Thank you.